What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Figuring Shit Out podcast, or the F.S.O pod. It's your girl Leah, and today we're going to be getting into a topic that I am really looking forward to giving my little 2 cents on. So real quick before we jump into it, I do want to give a couple quick disclaimers. I am currently dog sitting, so I am not at home in my typical usual setup, so you might hear some sounds in the background. I do have the AC going, so you might hear that kick on every now and then I also do have laundry going, so you might hear that as well. But yeah, so I just wanted to give that quick little disclaimer. But as usual, y'all, I'm just sharing my personal opinion and my perspective that nobody asked for and probably nobody cares about, but I don't care. I'm gonna do it anyway. If you're a returning listener or you're hearing me for the first time, I want to start it off with saying thank you. I appreciate you for tuning in. So go ahead and grab your snacks, grab your loofah with your soap, put your feet up, whatever you do when you're listening to your favorite podcast, sit back and go ahead and listen to me talk my ish. Yeah. All right, y'all. So, I'm going to jump right into this topic today. What I want to discuss today is effective communication. I do feel like communication itself has been the topic of a lot of just different discussions in life for the past some odd years. I've been seeing it so much more in, podcasts, on talk shows, and just, even just people just talking and sharing, their opinion about things through social media and stuff like that, which I think is great. I feel like communication itself is not a topic that is discussed a lot. And I don't believe that we really truly understand the value and the importance of communication. But with that being said, my personal opinion, and something that I feel like I have learned to understand more and truly realize, is that it's not about communication, it's about effective communication. You can communicate with someone until you're blue in the face, but if you're not effectively communicating with them, if you're hitting a wall, or if the information that you're trying to convey is not being perceived in the way that you need it to be perceived and that you would like for it to be perceived, then it's redundant. I wouldn't say it's pointless, but it's going to become redundant after a point, because you're going to just continue to repeat yourself, right? Nobody likes to do that. That's stupid. So I do want to start it off with giving the definition of effective communication per Google. I am not a licensed therapist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not none of that. So again, everything that I say is just my own personal opinion. You can Google whatever you'd like to Google. I don't really have notes for this particular episode, though. The only thing that I did write down that I did get from like any kind of research is just the definition of effective communication. Other than that, everything, kind of just raw dog in this episode. So as I kind of tend to do. But so I'm going to read the definition of effective communication. Effective communication is the process of conveying information clearly and intentionally so that the receiver understands the sender's message with clarity and purpose. I'm going to read that again. Effective communication is the process of conveying information clearly and intentionally so that the receiver understands the sender's message with clarity and purpose. My bad, y'all. I accidentally hit a button. Y'all didn't hear that. Just disregard that. But anyway, that's what I get. I talk on my hands. But yeah, so you know what? Just one more time for the people in the back. Effective communication is the process of conveying information clearly and intentionally so that the receiver understands the sender's message with clarity and purpose. Personally, I don't know how that can be explained in any more to the point and more direct way. I'll give an example. It's like, kind of bringing it to like dating. If you meet someone and you communicate with them and you're like, yeah, I'm not really looking for nothing right now, but yeah, like I said, I mean, if it happens, I guess, but to be honest, nah, I'm not really looking for a relationship. I don't, that's not what I'm looking for. Like, it's not what I want, but I mean, I am very just kind of go with the flow though. I like to just see where life takes me, but that's not something I'm looking for right now. Right. So that's the tone that you set for this encounter or this situation with this person. Right. Now, let's say time goes on, you're spending time together, you're hanging out, you're doing all the couple stuff without being a couple, like y'all talking all the time, you're on FaceTime, you're on FaceTime all the time, you're texting all the time, you're meeting their friends and family, they've met your friends and family, like y'all know each other's like schedules, y'all going on dates, y'all vibing, y'all probably even doing a little, freaky deaky hinky pinky kind of situation, you know what I'm saying? Like y'all having some fun, right? Which is cool. Everybody's grown. Do whatever you want. Just be safe. But let's say, 3 months go by, right? And all of a sudden, you're getting hit with the, well, what are we? Or, well, I don't know why you're mad. Like we're together, like you're my man or I'm your woman. So why are you mad? You know what I mean? Like whatever. And you're just like, whoa, I didn't tell you I wanted a relationship. I told you when we first started talking that wasn't something I was looking for. Right. They can go back to that initial conversation that you had with them where you were, well, yeah, I'm not really looking for nothing, but I mean, if it happens, it happens, but like, that's not really something I want right now. I'm not really worried about it, but I'm very go with the flow. Right. And then they throw that back in your face, but now you're hitting them back and you're rebutting with them. Well, I communicated with you though. I told you I didn't want this. I told you I didn't want a relationship. Why? You're looking too much into it. You're doing this, you're doing that, blah, 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 blah. Right. And then it just becomes this whole mess, this whole situation. Right. Now, on the flip side of that, your communication could have started off a lot more clear and a lot more concise and a lot more intentional, and you could have been intentional because I'm sorry, as a normal person, as a human, I'm going to go off of what you tell me. Right. So if you come to me and you're like, hey, I'm not looking for a relationship, but I'm a very go with the flow though. I'm trying, like wherever the situation takes me, like I'm cool with that, but I'm not really looking for a relationship. It's not really something I want, right now, but I'm like, hey, like whatever happens. I'm going to take that at face value. You know what I mean? Now, if you were to present the situation and, say, hey, I do not want a relationship. I don't want a relationship. I'm not looking for a relationship. If that is something that you want in the long run, if that's something that that is your end goal, then I don't believe we should pursue this. I don't believe we should deal with each other because ultimately that is not where I'm at. It's not where my headspace is at. It's not where it's going to be at. I do not want that right now. I'm not open to anything right now. Like I'm just trying to have fun, hang out with someone, have someone to kind of talk to and vibe with. And then that's it. I don't want anything serious. I'm not looking for anything serious. I don't want to start to work towards anything serious. I just want to keep this cool. I want to keep it casual. And that's that. If that's something that you want as well, I think we should continue this. If not, I think we should, I don't think we should deal with each other, and then now let's say in that scenario, you're sticking to that, right? Like y'all are still, it's very casual. Like y'all don't really know each other's friends like that. Y'all ain't meeting each other's family and homies and stuff. Y'all ain't like y'all kicking it, y'all vibing. But it's very, very casual. It's super chill. It's, you know what I mean? Like it's not like, you're not acting like a couple without having the couple title. You know what I'm saying? Like you're genuinely like, hey, this is just casual. We talk every now and then. We, kind of check in with each other and that's that. Right. And then now let's say, some months down the road after that, 3-4 months after that, then they start hitting you with the, well, you're my man, you're my woman, whatever, like, blah, 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 like you're acting like it, whatever. Then you can go to them and you can say, no, I'm not. I told you from the beginning, this is what I wanted. I told you from the beginning, this is where my headspace is. This is what I was looking for. This is what I wasn't looking for. I told you what I was willing to do and what I wanted to do and how much of myself I was willing to give. And I wasn't willing to give more than that. And you said you were okay with that. And that's how it's been. I haven't, I don't know your people like that. You don't know my people like that. We kick it, but we don't really kick it like that. You know what I mean? So I don't know, I feel like now, unfortunately, perception is key, which is another topic I kind of want to get into, and I think it's really hard to remember that, perception is very important. However, it's not everyone's reality. It's that person's reality. You know what I mean? So obviously you can't still change the way that someone perceives a particular situation. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of how intentional you are, and you have those scenarios where it doesn't matter how clear you are and how, upfront you are about this is what I want, this is what I don't want, this is what I'm looking for, whatever. Someone is still they can still perceive it completely different. They can still take whatever you say, however they're going to take it. In that way, you cannot change that. But what you can change, or what you can control, again, is the way that you presented yourself, the way that you presented your intentions, the way that you laid out your goals and your wants and your needs and your expectations. And if you do that, then obviously the way that someone else perceived it, that's on them. You know what I mean? Like, I told you from the jump, this is what I was looking for. I told you, I even checked in with you multiple times to make sure we were still on the same page. And you said we were. So I don't know where this is coming from. You know what I mean? Like, you can cover yourself, so I feel like, effective communication, it can just be a lifesaver, man. You can avoid so many problems. You can avoid so many probably unnecessary confrontations, so many unnecessary negative feelings and negative headspaces if you just effectively communicate, and you just tell someone, and this is regards to anything, even with work, be intentional, man. Tell someone, be clear about your expectations. Be clear about what you're telling them. If you're telling someone, hey, you're providing them information, be 100% with that information. Don't leave room for error. Don't leave room for, well, you kind of said it like this though, so I thought I took it like this. No, you didn't. There was no way you could have, because I said A, B, C, D. I didn't say A, skip to C, touch on B a little bit, and then jump to D, but barely gave a little bit of information on D. No, I clearly told you A, B, C, and D, clearly, you know what I mean? And yeah, I do feel like this is a topic that I probably will dive more into at a later point, but I just kind of wanted to get this initial information off my chest. You know what I mean? Not even information. I'm trying to make it sound like I'm spreading like I'm a philosopher. What the heck did I have a stroke? What the heck? Anyway. Yeah. So, and on top of that, man, effectively communicate, y'all. Stop being weird. Just tell people, be straight up, and don't leave room for error. That's something that I've learned too. That I've even caught myself doing it during conversations where, like, I say something and then someone is like, oh yeah, okay, cool. And then I realize that they're interpreting what I'm saying to mean this, when that's not what I was saying, or that's not even what I meant. So then I either have to kind of think in my head, okay, wait a minute, like, hold on, how can I make sure, or I make sure that we can have that conversation, or at some point we get back to me being clear, or it being clear about what it was that I meant, and I feel like you do not stop. You don't just like hit a certain level with, being a good communicator and an effective communicator, and then you just stop. It's just like with life. You continue to learn, you continue to grow, you continue to be better and do better. At least hopefully you should. Life is not a stagnant situation. I mean, it is, and it's very easy to get caught up in the comfortability and the routine of certain things. But ultimately, life is about evolving, and it's about growth, and it's about, again, just doing better and being better, and just as long as you work to do that, man, I don't really feel like anybody can go wrong in life. Unless you're like a psychopath and like your goals to grow is doing like psychopathic things. Don't do that. Like, I mean, like, you know, be a good person. You know what I mean? Like, if you have trauma and stuff, or if you're kind of a toxic person in relationships and you know that you're a toxic person, like, go to therapy, like talk about it. You know, or if you've been through a lot of stuff, you know, go to therapy, talk about it, you know, write about it, meditate about it. I don't care. You know, just be better. You know, don't make the same decisions. Don't hang out with the same people. Don't put yourself in the same situations and circumstances. You know, learn and just grow and be better. So yeah, y'all. So this episode is pretty short. Hopefully I wasn't all over the place. Hopefully the example that I gave made sense. I do real quick. Just want to touch on, I'm still figuring this all out. You know, I'm figuring out the process. Again, there's certain, I mentioned it earlier in this episode. This wasn't an episode that I went and I, you know, had, you know, like my notes and I had a bunch of different key points that I wanted to talk about. This was kind of just a topic that just popped into my head and I just wanted to speak on it. You know, again, I might even come back to it. There are a lot of topics that I've discussed thus far that I would like to return back to at some point. So this is more than likely going to be one of them. But you know, I'm still figuring this all out, man. You know, I typically do try to have like some points and some little notes written down and things like that, because I know my brain is squirrel. You know, I have the attention span of an acorn, so I am everywhere and my brain is always moving, and I'm in the middle of making a point and then my brain will be like, oh wait, but that, and then I'll jump to it. It's a lot. So, you know, again, I do hope that this episode made sense. I hope that the example that I gave made sense in my head, to be completely honest. And again, I will probably later on down the road go into more detail about this particular topic and my feelings and my thoughts on this topic. But, you know, for now, I just wanted to, like I said, just sit down real quick and just talk it out. You know, the whole point of this podcast is just staying true to myself, and you know, I don't edit. I don't go back if I mess up and it's a mess up enough that I can't kind of just slide past it. You know, like, I don't know if y'all noticed in the beginning of this episode, I did that earlier. But, you know, if it's not something that I can just kind of slide past a little bit, then I will stop recording and I will delete that episode and I will start all over again. I don't edit, you know, I just do raw one takes, and, you know, whatever happens. And I feel like that's with life. You know, I really want this episode, I really want this podcast to embody me as a person and as a human and as a woman, and I just want to be true to who I am, you know, and again, if you stick with me and you listen and you care about what I got to say, I appreciate you, you know, more than words. It truly means a lot. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end this little rant. Once again, if you stuck all the way to the end and you weren't like, what the hell is she talking about? You know, much love, man. It means a lot. It means a lot. So yeah, y'all. With that being said, live love and love life. Be kind. Until next time, y'all.